It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'll be your host this morning. You know, it's a sad day in America when the courts confirm tyranny. The other day, a appeals court overturned the limitation on the National Defense Authorization Act issue of detaining American citizens indefinitely without trial, without hearing, without counsel, without the right of habeas corpus. And I find that to be disturbing and inexcusable. When you have an executive and a legislative and a judicial that are all operating together and doing so in an illegal and unauthorized extra-constitutional manner, you have tyranny. And I fairly believe that if our founders were to look at this one issue alone, they would say to us, the republic is lost. I pray that the plaintiffs in this case will take this on to the Supreme Court, because and don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I have no faith that the Supreme Court will find any differently. But I do believe that we need to get it on the record how far these folks have gone. And the reason I say that is because we want it to be a matter of record when we have the wherewithal and the ability, and America says we've had enough. We need to have enough evidence, like good prosecutors, to be able to say this is the reason why all three departments are operating in conjunction, in conspiratorial fashion, to subjugate and subvert the rule of law in the United States of America. And so I'm hoping, and I'm pretty confident they probably will. This case has implications that are extraordinary for America. Combine that with the the presidential issues of the kill list and drones and a host of other areas where this particular administration has run afoul of the Constitution, and you end up with a very, very frightening scenario or group of converging issues that can be used in a manner which is dangerous for America. My deepest concern is that with the NDAA operating without oversight now by the courts, we don't even know, based on the new propaganda rules, when it's even being used. Because now that they have allowed the use of propaganda domestically, are people being snatched off the street as we speak and we don't even know about it? And the press is covering it up because they're being fed propaganda? We'll never know, will we? You see, that's the problem with propaganda being used domestically. It can be interleaved in between legitimate stories. It can be a government push of information that comes out that's misdirected, misrepresentational, and can completely change the tone and tenor of the American society's outlook, viewpoint. It's a manipulation factor, and it's dangerous. You combine factors like that together with the NDAA, and you have blatant and open tyranny. And no one in America seems to care. I mean, the question I ask is, where are all the other individuals in America who can draw the lines together and speak out on this? Where are they? I want to know, where are all the major league radio folks who should be sitting here saying to America, let me connect the dots for you so that you know how deep down the rabbit hole we've fallen? And they're just not there. They want to talk about the Zimmerman thing endlessly. The whole point of Zimmerman was to act as a distraction. And they've fallen for it. And they should know better. I'm eternally stunned and amazed that that is the routine that they practice, that where they know what the difference is, and they run with that ball anyway, even in the wrong direction towards the wrong goal. This is a dangerous turn of events for America. This indefinite detention is perhaps one of the most dangerous abuses that this administration has fostered upon us. Combine that with the control of all telecommunications network systems, public and private. Combine that with the issues of allowing a propaganda to be used in the U.S. domestic media, and you have all the makings of Stasi Germany, Nazi Germany, the KGB, Pravda, the former USSR, China. You see, we have lost our focus here as a republic. By the way, soft propaganda has been going on for a long, long time. Have you ever heard a politician use the word republic in any of their talking head interviews? No. They all say, this is a democracy. Even the news media hosts don't use the word republic. I never use the word democracy because the differences are stark. They're distinct, and they do have meaning. A democracy is mob rule. A democracy is the Justice Department insisting that they're going to investigate Zimmerman after their trial because the crowd wills it. That's the politics of pull. The rule of law under a republic says our job, irrespective of what the vast majority want, is to protect the rights of the smallest minority, the one, you. And that is where they have failed. They don't want you to think of this as a republic, because a republic is diametrically opposed to the principles of collectivist and collectivism, collectivist thinking. They don't want you to think of yourself as an individual. They want you to think of yourself as a part of the collective who is willing to sacrifice yourself on the altar of collectivism for the good of the whole. And that's not even good, humane thinking. See, the NDAA, drone attacks, the use of propaganda, these are crimes not against America, but these are crimes against humanity. Because the effect isn't just domestic. every time we do a drone strike overseas and there is collateral damage, we swat the hornet's nest one more time. But it's easier and less public outcry comes from the use of a drone than from boots on the ground. And so here you have an executive that operates as a 007 hit squad. Foreign and soon domestic. Make no bones about it, there will be an example that they will pull out of their hat at some point in the near future where they will use a domestic drone strike to take out an American. And the reason I say that is because you keep hearing it coming up. You keep hearing politicians say, well, in the instance of imminent crisis, imminent danger. Remember Madison's words. Crisis is the rallying point or the rallying cry of the tyrant. And every time they use the word crisis, you need to check your pockets and make sure their hand isn't in it. I don't mean your monetary pocket. I mean your Bill of Rights pocket. That's the one that you should keep even closer to your chest. Know your enemy and know how they think. And know what they're doing. You see, this information is plain for all to see. You don't have to be a political science major to see what's going on around you and recognize, smell the danger. You can smell the danger. You can feel it, like when you step out your front door and you feel that cold wind upon your face and you know it's going to snow. When you can step out your front door and you can smell the rain in the air. When you're walking down the street and you see a crowd of people coming from the other direction and you smell and you feel and you sense that danger. If you don't listen to yourself, to your own mind, if you don't heed the alerts and the warnings going off in your own mind, that's on you. But they're clear and plain to be seen. The evidence and the information is out there everywhere. There is a war on here, and it's a war of media and public opinion. Those who choose to be intellectually dishonest with themselves and hide their heads in the sand, that's on them. They've made that choice. They willingly, knowingly refuse to see. But there is a certain segment of the population that just isn't interested in politics. And they've forgotten the adage of Pericles, which says, just because you don't take an interest in politics doesn't mean politics doesn't take an interest in you. You can ignore what's going on around you. Most people, when you ask them about political issues, what's the first thing they say? Oh, politics and religion. Two topics we never talk about. Why? Both affect you. Why can't we have an intelligent discourse? Why can't we open up the topic of politics? Well, I don't want to talk about that now. Okay, when do you want to talk about it? I mean, we're out of time. So when did it occur that you wanted to have this discussion? I mean, are we going to wait until the tanks are rolling through the American streets? Are we going to wait until drones are in our own domestic skies? Are we going to wait until some crisis happens and they lay down the initial gauntlet of martial law? Isn't it a little too late then? I mean, how long will it be before the next things we hear are going to be, well, we have to do this, we have to clean up the airwaves because we can't have all this subversive talk. The FCC's already tried that. They've tried to do it under the internet. They hate the fact that there's alternative media out there who talks about indefinite detention. They hate the fact that there are alternative media journalists who will tell the story they don't want you to hear. At what point do they begin to lock it down? I mean, it's not really a question of if anymore, is it? I'm going to ask you to just check yourself here. 10 years ago, would you have thought any of this situation could be happening today? 5 years ago, you feared it. 2 years ago, you knew it was happening. Now, it's already here. And most of America is laying in bed with the sheets pulled up over their head, hiding from the boogeyman in the room. We see it everywhere. The NSA surveillance, coupled with NDAA, coupled with propaganda, coupled with government persecution under the IRS. I mean, how many dots do you need to see connected, like a child's coloring book, before the picture becomes apparent? And at what point do you say, like Wheel of Fortune, oh, I got it? How many more times do you have to buy a vowel before the phrase that everybody else sees is apparent to you? We are in very, very dangerous times. And I'm not quite sure that most Americans realize the exigence of that danger. It is a very, very dangerous place for us to be. And until America determines that it's no longer willing to put up with the abuses, we don't have a core critical mass. I suspect that by the time Americans are ready to walk like an Egyptian and march on their government in numbers millions upon millions strong, 45% of the population strong, I suspect that by the time they're ready and willing and able to do that, it may be too late. The chaos that will ensue will be no different than what we see going on in Egypt. Because we, the opposition, we, the patriotic Americans who understand what this country should be, what it was founded upon, what its intent was, we're not prepared. We're not coalesced. We're not organized. And we haven't found that catalyst that will pull us together. In our next segment, I'm going to talk about what I believe that catalyst is. And that it will change, it'll take us some coordination and effort, because it's a mammoth undertaking, to refocus our efforts away from all of these distractions, from party politics to the real core fundamental requirement of what we should be doing as patriots to prepare for the inevitability of whatever it is that will come next. I don't have a crystal ball. But I can tell you that the time for action is rapidly closing. The time when we can take action in freedom, where we have the ability to communicate with each other, is going to close fairly quickly. Is that weeks, months, years? I don't know. But in the overall political life of this country, it's going to be moments. If we do not put our efforts together to bind this thing down with the chains of the Constitution, bind this animal down, we are lost. The way that we should be doing that, I'm going to discuss in our next segment. But it should be a coordinated effort between Americans of all political persuasion, all political party affiliation, and no affiliation. Those who are inside parties, who smell and see the danger, need to be willing to stand up and stand side by side with other threatened strangers on the street. And we need to coalesce our efforts so that we are the tip of the spear, the vanguard, the phalanx of warriors preparing to have a legitimate government in place, waiting silently, quietly, to be inserted at the right moment. Because this thing will come apart, folks. The question is, how fast and when? I don't know those answers. But I do know this. If we're not prepared for when it does happen, all will be lost. When communication is no longer open to us, how will we then organize? Isn't now that time? You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. You can find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And you can also find this and every other show that we do on YouTube at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. If you can remember America's Voice Now, you can pretty much find us everywhere. We are shortly to have a Android and iPhone application out there. We will have a call-in phone number that you will be able to utilize shortly. I want to thank those of you who have been stepping up to support our new studio effort, and we'll give you more updates on that as we go forward. We'll be back in just a couple of moments.